The very first thing me and my family did to get involved in Israel was actually to invest, not from a business standpoint, but from a philanthropy and a humanitarian aid standpoint. We actually partnered with the Jewish Agency for Israel, and we were able to actually build 2 apartment buildings in Bet Zara, which is a kibbutz in the north on the Sea of Galilee, to actually house the olim, or the Jewish immigrants that the state sponsors to come into Israel. And we actually house them for about a year for free. While they get their feet under them, they get job training, Hebrew, English training. We have feeding, clothing centers. There's a pre-army academy for the young adults coming in that need to go into the army. And so we actually invested, I say invested, but it was really a gift to Israel. You know, another powerful verse is those who bless Israel will be blessed, and those who curse Israel will be cursed.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Biblical Money. I am your host, Rabbi Rami Goldberg from Israel 365. And we are here today with Chris Granzow. I met Chris actually a couple of weeks ago in the office, and really a great guy, fantastic entrepreneur, someone who's actually trying to build the third temple, has been involved with the red heifers. There's so many different things, but also feet on the ground. He has boats in the Galilee, and we're going to hear all about the different things that he's involved with. So, Chris, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So, Chris, you have a bit of an unusual story in terms of how you eventually get connected to Israel. It wasn't necessarily in your mother's milk to start with. So, give us a little bit about that background story.
Yeah, grew up in the East Coast of America, DC and Florida. Just had a normal kind of American upbringing, but grew up in both the Christian and Jewish circles throughout my childhood, mainly Christian, and knew a lot about Israel, knew a lot about the Bible. But never really actually had like a calling, or actually even someone tell me I needed to come to Israel until one of my mother's aunt, when she was passing away, mentioned to us that she really wanted us to go to Israel. And so this was about 2017 when I actually took my first trip to Israel, and immediately fell in love when I hit the ground.
Yeah, and your mother's aunt is Jewish, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So she has the Jewish connection, and so so what was it about that trip? I mean, what was it that you saw when you came here? I mean, we have roads and trees and streets and some angry bus drivers, but what is it on the kind of the surface level, and then I guess on a deeper level that you connected with?
Well, yeah. Being that my mother's family is Jewish, I think there is a little bit of a calling back to home there that I've now gotten to fully explore and understand, getting involved in Israel the way I have. But really, what it was is growing up, understanding the Bible, understanding the scriptures, and studying them to try to seek God and understand what God's doing in this world. We're still in the story today. And when I actually arrived to Israel, it was like the book came alive. It went from black and white pages to 4K color surround sound experience for me, where all of a sudden I was immersed in the scriptures. I was and I realized that the scriptures weren't just some old story that that happened a long time ago. It's still actively being played out, and that really, and I felt that calling to take a deeper step and get closer to the things that are close to God, and that led me into all kinds of adventures and entrepreneurial activities in Israel.
Yeah. So a lot of people are passionate about Israel. They're passionate about business. You've been able to go ahead and take that passion and actually do something. Tell us about some of the investments that you've made in Israel, and how you've taken some of the entrepreneurship that you developed earlier and have actually moved some of those activities to Israel.
Definitely. Well, like I said, I actually have a background in marketing and communications and broadcasting. I worked for Red Bull energy drinks for many years. I also worked for lots of different film and music productions in America for many years, and then actually went pretty heavy into real estate and real estate investment. We opened up our own brokerage in Florida. So I have a lot of different business background that was going on in my life at the time that I first went to Israel and started getting engaged in Israel. But what actually called to me first, was I got connected to an organization called the Aliyah Return Center, over in the north of Israel, up on the Sea of Galilee. And what I realized through that was, again, many of the scriptures I had read my entire life, was all of a sudden this opened up to me, where I learned that there were over 700 prophetic scriptures that spoke about Aliyah, or the return of the Jewish people back to Israel. And it goes into extreme depth about what that looks like from the perspective of the nations, from the perspective of Israel, from the Christian side, from the Jewish side, from all these different angles. And all of a sudden I started understanding how important this was, and how important this is to God, and what he has going on there. And so Chaim Mailspin, one of my good friends who's involved in this, he brought this up to me. He said, if God says something one time, it's important. If he says something 700 times, you should probably pay attention. And so the very first thing me and my family did to get involved in Israel was actually to invest, not from a business standpoint, but from a philanthropy and a humanitarian aid standpoint. We actually partnered with the Jewish Agency for Israel, and we were able to actually build 2 apartment buildings in Bet Zera, which is a kibbutz in the north, on the Sea of Galilee, to actually house the olim, or the Jewish immigrants that the state sponsors to come into Israel. And we actually house them for about a year for free. While they get their feet under them, they get job training, Hebrew, English training. We have feeding, clothing centers. There's a pre-army academy for the younger young adults coming in that need to go into the army. And so we actually invested. I say invested, but it was really a gift to Israel. Another powerful verse is, "Those who bless Israel will be blessed, and those who curse Israel will be cursed." I always wanted to be on the blessing side of that. So we ended up pouring a substantial amount of money into renovating those apartments and preparing a place for these immigrants to come in. And then through that, it actually opened up the door into all kinds of different opportunities for us in the land of Israel. So now over there, we've actually been able to become a partner in one of the larger boat companies, tour boat companies on the Sea of Galilee, Francis Eco Sailing. We actually host tours all across the Kinneret, every day, with our partners. And then we also have a nonprofit that actually started out of our philanthropy work over there, which is called the Christian Agency for Israel, that focuses on Aliyah, absorption, humanitarian aid, and education of Christians around the world. And then another amazing opportunity we got to get into was partner with an incredibly brilliant mind in Israel, Yair Yehuda, who worked in national defense for many years in Israel. And we've created our own semantic artificial intelligence software called @One, and it's @One Research, @One Stream. And we are now deploying that at Stanford University in their medical research department, and other universities. We're looking at applying that, to hopefully revolutionize how artificial intelligence research is done. And so, and then we also have lots of other projects. I help do a lot of productions, a lot of documentaries, a lot of live events in Israel. So really, again, it's just taking any step of faith into Israel and stepping in and saying, "Hey, I'm here. I'm showing up. I want to get involved." God is just going to then open up door after door after door for you to get where you ultimately want to go.
Yeah, I mean that's amazing. I'm so curious about the artificial intelligence. What is that? What does that mean as far as changing the way that artificial intelligence and AI research is done? I'm curious
Yeah.
about that.
One of the biggest issues that you see with like ChatGPT, OpenAI, the also Gemini, and many other AIs that are out there, is it's generative AI. It's incredibly powerful. It's very useful. I mean, I use it all the time. But when it comes to research, and especially collegiate research, and anything that you need to have verifiable sources, you have to have an articulation of the chain of like custody of the data. it falls short. And they're trying to get into this, but it's a big hill to climb in terms of AI development, because there's a lot of false positives essentially in this. I don't know if you know how often you use ChatGPT, but a lot of people will see, the harder you push it, the more it will try to fit and make what you want to happen, even to the extent where sometimes it will create false sources and false information just to be like, yeah, here's something for you to work with. And so really what we've been able to do is leverage our own in-house AI that my partner actually developed to basically solve that issue and prove the sourcing. And then we were actually able to integrate ChatGPT and Gemini and all several other generative AI platforms into what we're doing. So now you get all the benefits of generative AI, but it's actually turbocharged essentially with real data that you can actually link and prove where all the information is coming from. So then again, you can actually apply this to collegiate research or to medical research, and actually use this in papers and documentation where people look at this and actually go, yeah, this is 100% accurate. We're in like the 99th percentile of accuracy at our current stage. So we're really excited. We're actually just now starting again to pilot test this program out with Stanford University. We're very early stages in that. And actually just now starting to open up to bring in some other investors and expand this to a broader spectrum. So it's a very exciting field of artificial intelligence that we're working in.
Right. I mean, it's amazing because when it comes to that research, when it comes to like AI, it's kind of just whatever it's able to scrape from the outside internet, as opposed to behind paywalls or inside libraries, which are more significant and substantial, as opposed to different things. But yeah, I mean, it's so important, especially to verify. I mean, I think there's like a biblical imperative. I mean, so much I know of our learning and scholarship within Judaism is always a reference to something that came before. There's even a statement within that the rabbis say that says that someone who quotes something in the name of somebody else, they bring the redemption. And where do they learn that from? From the fact that Esther goes to Achashverosh, and she says, "Oh, by the way, it was Mordechai who saved you," right? Meaning because she quoted him, then that leads to the redemption. So that's always what we always want to see, is kind of quoting, those who came before. So, I mean, I guess as a Christian, why is Aliyah and bringing Jews back to the land of Israel something that you're so excited, so passionate about? And I see a lot of Christians in many ways more passionate than some of the Jews, unfortunately, as far as their excitement for helping Jews return to the land of Israel.
Well, going back to those scriptures I was talking about earlier, the Aliyah scriptures, many of them actually reference the role of Christians, the role of the nations, and like one of the scriptures, it says that the daughters will be of Israel, of Zion, will be brought back on the shoulders of the nations, and it says that they will be flown on wings of eagles back to the land, and it goes on and on and on to show that there is an actual role that God is calling the nations to fulfill. The nations are the ones that are going to bring the Jewish people back home, and it's their responsibility to actually help fulfill this. It kind of paints a beautiful picture, because, and this leads right into what we're doing to hopefully bring about the third temple as well. Is
you have the hat.
Yeah, and the nations are the ones that have to actually want the third temple. They want, and that actually goes into the fuller spectrum of Aliyah. The word Aliyah doesn't just mean to return back to Israel. It actually means to ascend to the temple. And so until there is a new temple built, that is going to be God's temple. A lot of Christians are a little afraid of the idea of a third temple, because they read in Revelations when the Antichrist is going to become an abomination and sit down in that. But that doesn't take away from the fact that this is going to be not only God's temple, but it's going to honor God, and it's a part of God's plan that is spelled out all throughout Scripture and has been prophesied over and over in Scripture. But again, this is the call of the nations to actually support and bring about this. And again, it talks about the wealth of the nations coming in to rebuild Israel, to build the temple up, and so there's a large role that the Christians are going to be playing in this. And, my hope is to not only help educate, but also to inspire Christians around the world to basically not only throw away the replacement theology that they've been taught, but throw away the comfort theology that they've been taught, to step out of their comfort zone and say, hey, maybe God is calling me to take a step of faith out here, get involved in something that might be a little scary. It might sound a little crazy, but, God is doing some really big things in Israel and with his people, which are both the Jew and the Gentile at this point. And that's what uh, the temple is supposed to be. It's a house of all nations to worship the God of Israel. And so when it talks about Aliyah and the return of the Jewish people, again, I can see very, very clearly that God has promised that he will bring his people back home. He will plant them in the land, and he will restore them to even greater than the glory they had before. And that it is our job as Christians in the nations to help facilitate that and help bring that about.
Yeah, no, that's I mean that's amazing, and people don't really even appreciate what the temple is, and it's unlike a lot of times other religions, which are very single dimensional focus. Judaism certainly has a role to play well beyond what we've been playing, and I think it's something that we're still getting comfortable with after 2,000 years in exile. Oh, well, what is that role? What does it look like, and what's it supposed to look like? Because for 2,000 years, we closed in the ghetto. We closed it in so we could stay safe, and we were closed into it. So it kind of was worked in both directions. So how could you have that influence? But you could have that influence once we're back in our land. And so kind of I would say in terms of the temple, what's your kind of guiding light, favorite part of and how do you see that unfolding, given that there might be another building that's currently in that location that's occupying that land? How do you?
Well, that's probably a whole nother podcast that we need to have. But the to answer your question, it's the team that I'm working with on this is it's a really exciting project, and the team is mainly made up of a group called Bonei Israel, Yuvnei Israel, and my Christian Agency for Israel is also heavily involved. One of my partners in this is Byron Stinson. Byron is the
Byron's been
gentleman
on the
from.
pod. We're actually you can check out his episode, which will be
Oh,
released
amazing.
before this one. Yeah.
And so Byron, as you could probably heard a lot of his story in the previous episode, is he was the gentleman from Texas who actually brought the red heifers over to Israel. But again, that is also a call to the nations. Numbers 19, it actually it says, "Say to Israel, bring us a red heifer," and this is Judah, or the Kohanim line, the high priest line. It says, "Say to Israel, bring us a red heifer." And so now that Israel's scattered into the nations, it really is a call to the nation. So Byron took that very seriously, and actually helped facilitate the finding of pure red heifers, pure red cows, and actually fundraised and made this happen with the head rabbis here in Israel that are in charge of all this, and did it under their guidance as the fathers of faith, the Jewish leaders that are been entrusted with this, and brought them here to Israel so that way they could be ready when the time comes for a red heifer ceremony that will actually bring about the physical purification that is necessary. And God actually not only commands, but says that all of Israel has to undergo this purification in order for him to be able to then not only bring his presence closer, but then to establish what is going to come, which is the building of the third temple, the establishment of the priesthood, and all these things. It's same, and basically we're echoing the exact same thing that happened back in Numbers with Moses and Aaron, where they had built the tabernacle, the tent of meeting, but they could not go into it until they had been physically purified. And it's really beautiful. And this is something that we're really trying to educate Christians around the world about, where, a lot of Christians don't understand. They say, why do we need a red heifer ceremony? Why because they think Jesus fulfilled it all, which Jesus did for the Christians, but Jesus fulfilled the spiritual side of that covenant, where now we are ready for the physical side of that covenant. Again, this is the building of the third temple is about the physical kingdom of God being restored to this earth. So now that we have the spiritual side covered through the Messiah, now it's time for the physical purification, so that way we can come into this fullness, and what we read as the one new man in the New Testament. So it's again, it's a call to the nations to say, hey, it's time to actually step up. It's time to get involved. It's time to support Israel, support your Jewish fathers of faith in this, and come and actually do the things that God has called us to do.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty amazing. I think there's also another amazing story. Are you familiar? And I'm sure within Byron actually bringing it, but the flock that it was brought from was from Brian Davenport, who
Yes.
we've also had as a guest, and he's a jeweler. Do you know that story with
Oh yeah, the Diamantina story.
Yeah. So do you want to tell it, or should I?
Oh yeah, well I'll do the best that I can. I wasn't there when it happened, but I've watched the videos. So Brian and Ty Davenport are ranchers from Texas, amazing men. Especially if you've gotten to meet them, they're incredible. But Ty is the rancher, but his brother was he went on to become a gold miner, a diamond miner, got into the jewelry business, and from my understanding, when the rabbis were in Texas and they were inspecting the cows, they one of the rabbis came over and started talking to Brian, and just was like, hey, so what do you do for work? And he's like, oh, well, I'm a gem dealer. I mine and I sell gems. And apparently this rabbi started freaking out, and he started yelling in Hebrew, and he started running and grabbing the other rabbis. And the Davenports and Byron, they're all like, oh no, what's going on? We don't we don't know what they're yelling about. But they started saying Diamantina, Diamantina, and the story goes is that when they needed a red heifer back during the previous temple, they actually, I'm sorry, when they on the ephod, one of the gemstones went missing and it had fallen off somewhere, and they needed to go get a new gemstone. So they found a gem dealer named Diamantina, and at the time of this, it's a beautiful story. It's a much more involved story, but the short of it is that his brother was raising red heifers, and actually was how they found out that there were some red heifers in Israel at that time that they could go get from the brother of Diamantina. And so they not only fixed the ephod, but they ended up getting another red heifer out of it, and were able to continue the ceremony of the red heifers. So again, when these rabbis found out that the brother of the rancher with the red heifers was a gem dealer like Diamantina, it was just one of those moments where they couldn't contain their excitement.
Yeah, I mean, it all clicks. They came to them asking about the stone, and he was actually the story that's told is that he was sleeping at the moment, and he had the key underneath his father's pillow, and he didn't want to wake up his father. And as as a result of, and kind of in appreciation, God had then sent them red heifer, which made them even more money. But yeah, it's that unbelievable parallel as we're seeing, moving into these redemptive times. So,
And it's a beautiful story about honoring your father.
yeah, no, I for sure. It's one of those things that I always tell my kids, listen, if someone is at the door and they have a big business deal, you can wake me up. I've given them that permission. So, even if the key is under my pillow, but so investing in Israel, it's definitely not for the faint of heart, especially if you don't speak the language. So you opened up, philanthropy is one thing, but you actually have a boat business. We've heard about the AI, but I think the boats was first, right? Meaning that was your first.
Well, they kind of all grew simultaneously. But yes, it's the short of it is, investing in Israel is not for the faint of heart, but as an American coming in with an American business know-how, it actually can be extremely successful and easy if you find the right Israeli partners. And that's one thing that I've found as a key to what I do over there is, I don't have any businesses just on my own over there because, to your point, my Hebrew is not good, and I try all every day to get better, but really what it takes is it's a true partnership between the nations and Israel in order to actually really successfully operate and navigate Israel, both from a legal and business standpoint and also from a communal and relationship standpoint, because there is a certain way you go about business in Israel, and it's can, like I said, it can be challenging at times, but it's also extremely rewarding. And my business partners and the people that I work with at this point, they're not just business partners; they are brothers. They're they're like, some of them are closer than family, and
because you don't like your family so much, that's why.
yeah, no, they honestly, they are they're all incredible people, and but it's the whole point of what I'm trying to achieve in Israel is not just to make money, not just to you have diversity in my investment portfolio or anything like that. The whole point is to be able to use what God is giving us to not only bless Israel but then also bless the nations through that, and find ways that can really open this up. So a little short story. My very first trip to Israel, we went with a tour group, and we showed up to Tiberias, which is right on the Sea of Galilee, very late at night. And the next morning, they were getting us up really early to go on the boat tour, and that was my very first boat tour out on the Kinneret, the Sea of Galilee. And as we go out, it's a heavy fog over the water, and as the sun starts to come up, the fog lifts, and I am just amazed by what I see, because again, I'd studied the Bible, the scriptures, my whole life. I knew all these stories. I knew what I was looking at, and I was just awestruck, because I'm like, I'm looking at the Bible. I can, tell you this story happened here and this happened there, and this is the water Jesus walked on, and this is, it was just incredible. But again, at that same moment, I realized I was a little heartbroken, because I was like, of all these years of working with churches and working with Christian schooling, and I even have a minor in theology from university. Nobody had ever told me that I needed to come and experience this for myself and come and see this. And like I said, it broke my heart, to where I immediately started this conversation with my father, who was with me. I was like, we got to share this with the world. We have every Christian needs to be told, you need to come and see the land of Israel, the promised land. Like, you have to come and experience it for yourself, because when you experience it for yourself, God is going to wake something up in you that you cannot just get from reading the scripture. You cannot just get from going to church every Sunday. And so we immediately started, right then and there, being like, how do we get involved here? And at that point, we didn't know any Israelis. The only Israeli we met was the bus driver. And we are like, can we buy property here? Can we, can we invest here? Is that legal? And so we just started being like, how do we go about doing this? We want to open a music venue here. We want to do all these different things. How do we do something? And obviously someone was listening, and I think that God was like, oh great, someone's asking the right question finally, because immediately God just started opening these door after door after door that ultimately led to, like, a year or so later, we were then talking about buying the very boat company that we were on, on that first tour. And, just getting involved in ways that I would have never imagined. But again, the heart behind it is I want to be able to use these things and leverage all these amazing things that God has given us. So that way I can share that with the world and connect people to this incredible land.
Yeah, I mean it's really amazing to see that, and talk about how many people come to the land of Israel. I think the numbers are something like 8-9 million people go see the Museum of the Bible in Washington, and on a good year we have 3-4 million tourists come here, and it's like, seriously. I think maybe the Ministry of Tourism might not be doing such a great job. Like, if you can't sell the actual place where things are happening, then and you got to go see pretend, as it were.
And again, it's this is something I encourage to all of the viewers out there, the Christian viewers, is obviously there's a lot of hesitation. There's a lot of fear out there about coming to Israel. It's like, oh well, don't they get attacked? Don't they? There's crazy things happen over there and all these things. So the couple things I can say to that is, one, I am over there constantly, and it is one of the safest places in the entire world. No matter what the media says, it's statistically speaking, like, Jerusalem is the safest city in the world. When I'm in Jerusalem, you'll be out walking at midnight, and you'll see little groups of middle school girls roaming around by themselves, going house to house, and they're not afraid of anything, because there's no one to hurt them. There's nothing bad happening, and obviously some of the neighbors are a little crazy over there in Israel. And they're dealing with those, but it's kind of funny where I've seen pastors who get up and teach in Israel, and they're like, my God is bigger than anything in this world. He can overcome all things. He's so powerful. You don't have anything to fear. And then one rocket comes in and the Iron Dome hits it, and that pastor is back on a plane and going back to California or wherever immediately. And then I'm like, well, what happened to your God is bigger than anything else, And so there is a sense of fear that's out there that I encourage you to pray about and overcome, because it's not based in God. It's not based in Scripture. God says there's nothing to fear with Him. But bigger than that is, especially if you've already overcome that and you're like, okay, but I don't have the money. It's expensive to get on an airplane and fly halfway around the world to Israel. It's a long trip. It's I don't want to sit on a plane for 10 hours. I don't want to do these things. One thing I would say to anyone is, God will not give you anything until you ask for it. So if you commit right now and say, I'm committing to go to Israel. I don't have the money. I don't have a way. I don't know who to talk to. Like I said, when I was on that boat, I was like, I don't know how to do this, but I'm committing to do this. God will find a way to do it, and God will bring it about. But it takes the commitment from you as an individual to actually take that step of faith, because everything with God is a covenant. Everything's a deal, a partnership. And God cannot act until you act. So if you take that commitment today and say, okay, this is the wake-up call I needed to come to Israel. Me and my family are committing right now to go to Israel this year. It's not next year in Jerusalem, it's this year in Jerusalem. if you're committing, like I said, God will fill in the blanks. You'll see some miraculous door open up, and you'll end up exactly where God needs you, but God needs you to commit. And so that would be my encouragement to everyone is, don't trust the media and what they're claiming about Israel, because they're not there either, and they don't know what's going on. And two, God is waiting for you to commit to actually showing up.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I want to just share one Bible teaching about that, which is, it's an amazing thing. God promises Abraham children and land 5 times, each of them 5 times. And then Sarah dies, and Abraham has no land, and he has no children. Meaning he has Isaac, but Isaac's at least 37 and is still not married. So this whole promise from God doesn't seem like it's going so well. And what does Abraham do? That next, Sarah dies, he haggles and he goes into contract. He needs to moves that covenant forward. And he goes and he purchases land. And he says, I'm going to take matters into my own hand. And God is going to then make sure that it's successful. And the same thing that happens in the story immediately after that is the story of finding a wife for Isaac. Probably the most detailed story in the entire Bible is because Abraham is sending and he's saying, okay, we need to go ahead and I need to go ahead and make sure this covenant comes true. You're right. God has the covenant with Abraham and with his children and with the land and the Jewish people. But if we don't go ahead and act on that, then in the end of the day, it's going to be something that stays in the theoretical and doesn't filter into the practical.
Yeah, exactly. And I always have to explain to people all the time that when Adam and Eve were in the garden, God gave Adam authority. And so if your dad gives you the keys to his car and says, hey, this is your car now, he can't take that back. He can't come and move the car without your permission. So, again, that's something that I have to encourage people all the time. I'm like, you have the keys. In order for the things on this earth to happen, you have to actually do something about it. And then God will come in and fulfill his side of the covenant because he's perfect and always will. But until you actually take that step of doing something or committing to it or saying you're going to do it, then God can't do anything. It's he's waiting on you.
Yeah, unbelievable. I mean, and it's so true. And you've inspired me with all these different ideas, and you're like a mile a minute. It's like, okay, we got another business idea, another thing, and we've only spoken a handful of times, but it's really encouraging as far as the future of Israel, that we have these partnerships and we have Jews and Christians really working together to see the land grow and the temple built, and it's just amazing things. We're going up and to the right on this one.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, and if I can let people know too, so they can watch what's going on, a new organization that we've started actually under the Christian Agency for Israel is called Temple 3, and our website's temple3.media, and actually that's what you were seeing here, my hat earlier is temple3.media. That's going to be our new media house that we actually are covering as things happen, as the temple's built, as the red heifer ceremony happens. We have the kind of the exclusive behind the scenes of what's going on, because we're actually involved with the groups that are doing the actual work on the ground. And so through Temple 3, you're actually going to get to see and watch all this happen live as all these things are coming together. And that, again, my goal here is not just to educate but inspire Christians. Say, hey, come and take your role, see what's actually happening, see what God is doing here in the land of Israel. And so as one of the next big things that's going to happen is we are going to have a red heifer ceremony. And, it's going to be a very, very exciting thing to share with the world. And, through that platform is where everyone's going to be able to watch that.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Chris. I appreciate you, and God should continue to bless all of your handiworks, all of your investment, and just the ideas, as you say, put them down and let God, God bring you that success. So you should just have continued success in everything that you do.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I'm really honored to be on this show with you today.
Thank you. Appreciate it.